Reno, delighted to meet you. Please tell us what you have.
My full name is Reno la Bouchardiere.
Great
I'm
name.
Up today from, thank you. I'm up today from Bournemouth, and I'm a general manager for a room rentals company and also general manager for a construction company. And the business model is basically to buy residential properties, extend them, convert them, refurbish them into HMOs, fill them up with rent-paying guests, and then sell them to property investors or professional landlords. We've done 3 of these so far. The 4th one is just coming to a conclusion now, and it will be going on the market in May. But the one I'm offering you is a 12-bed guest house. It's got registered use as a guest house, but it was lived in by an old lady on her own for about 30 years. So as you can imagine, it needs some refurbishment. The purchase price for it is $360,000, and the refurbishment costs are estimated about $120,000. Once it's done, the rental income will be in excess of $80,000 a year. So by my reckoning, it should go on the market for about $750,000, $800,000, and I think that's going to generate a profit of between $220,000 and $270,000. There are further projects that we are waiting for planning on. I'm hoping for an investor who will work with us not just on this project, but on future projects as well. And I'd welcome any questions you've got.
Okay, well that's a great pitch, Reno. And interestingly, HMOs are not something I normally invest in, but the size of this makes me interested. But let's start ladies first. Michelle?
Welcome. Thanks, John. Thank you very much. Thanks, Reno, for coming in and pitching. The estimated end value seems pretty high. Who have you gone to get an estimated valuation?
Goesby's have told me between 10 and 12 times the yearly income, but the rents we charge are basically all-inclusive. So the customer doesn't pay the bills, we pay the bills. So therefore, I've allowed for 5 to 7 grand a year for bills, and then done the 10 times income multiple, and that's where I get the 750 from. The second and third project that we sold were both 6-bedroom units, and they sold for 460 and 475 respectively to a housing association in Bournemouth.
Okay. And with the 12-bedroom guest house, so are all of those bedrooms going to be en suite?
No, 4 will be en suite, and 8 will share 2 bathrooms and 2 kitchens.
Don't you think that's quite a high number of users per bathroom, 4 people to bathroom?
It's within the HMO requirements of the local council. It's 4 rooms per bathroom, 4 rooms per kitchen.
And maybe you're within the regulations, but how easy is it to rent out to people when many people want en suites these days?
But there is also demand for cheaper rooms, particularly from certain contingents, Eastern European, Polish in particular, who basically just here in Bournemouth to work, send money home. A lot of them are buying plots of land and building their own homes back in Poland.
No, I know that's true because some of the people who've worked on quite a large site I'm taking at the moment are Polish and they save all their money. Great workers, save all the money, and they're building something else when they get back home. Okay, Nicholas, what do you think of this?
What's the planning on it? I'm quite interested in the planning element because with HMOs, guest houses, I know Bournemouth are very difficult to work with, shall I say, on changing guest house use back to any sort of residential. They rely heavily on
as a guest
tourism.
house, because of the demographic of customers and because of the location, the majority of the customers the room rentals business will have for that property will be people who are staying 3 or 4 months. But what a lot of hotels are doing in Bournemouth at the moment is applying for dual use. So during the summer they're hotel and guest house, and during the winter they can be a HMO.
Okay, and is that your plan to do the dual use?
That would be the plan if it becomes necessary to take people for longer than 4 months, but we're geared up for the people who are coming here for the language courses. They're working, they're part-time and full-time and sending money home. So,
a couple of questions regarding the rental income. You've obviously based it on 12 rooms, but as you said, the rooms are of different sizes and have
different amenities, yes.
Different amenities. So what is the standard price of a room in Bournemouth, and what are you charging?
Within that property, the cheapest room is going to be about £100 per week.
Okay, and the most expensive?
And the most expensive is going to be about £200 per week for a couple, all-inclusive.
And have you put any void periods into your calculations?
Not as yet, no. Our occupancy for the 250 rooms that we manage already is about 98%. We ask our customers to give us 3 weeks notice whenever they're going to leave, and we do viewings and we try to fill the room up within a day or 2 of them leaving. We also ask them If they can find someone to fill the room for us, then we will pay them an introduction fee of £50.
But they're not tied into that 3 week. That's just a honorary 3 week notice
Yes,
period.
we asked them, yes.
We used to call them bed sits in our day when I was doing them years and years ago. But if there was a problem with the planning, of course, we just offered them a continental breakfast, and that got us round the rules of being a guest house against a...
Correct. We can be a room-only guest house,
Right, yeah.
or we can offer them a continental
Okay.
breakfast.
So you've got that covered really, haven't you, really?
So is that, you're staying under the C1 planning category? Is that what you're hoping to do?
Yes, but we are going to apply for the HMO usage as a dual usage. So we're not going to lose the guest house.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know about you, Michelle, but I mean, you do HMOs now, don't you? And I haven't done them for years. What's your view on that? Because I'm a bit lost with it, to be honest with you.
I've never dealt with a guest house before.
I don't think that's a problem.
I think that the 98% occupancy rate that they deal with, I would want to, I think that's very ambitious.
We actually did something very similar in Watford. We took a guest house, ran it as a sort of not sui generis, but a little bit HMO, a little bit short let to keep it under the C1 planning. It's a grey area that you can operate in, but my concern is that planning is that grey area. I don't actually like grey areas. I want to know 100%.
Offer them a breakfast and you're going to be fine, aren't you?
What was the occupancy rate on your deal then that you...
Well,
Not
in Watford, I'm going
98%.
back, it was a couple of years ago we sold it, but certainly not 98%.
Yeah.
That's in the centre of
and
Watford.
Also,
so-
surely sort of 30-40% of the gross is taken by the gross income is taken by expenses, isn't it?
Absolutely,
We're
it's
running
paying
it.
all the bills.
It's paying all the bills.
I also think that end valuation is extremely high.
Yeah, that's not an HMO end valuation, that's
No,
a guest house end
absolutely
valuation.
not.
I think it'd be quite hard to sell that on actually because
Because of the amount
Yeah.
of
if you look at
the size of it.
the cash flow is going to be about 3k a month after you pay all the bills and everything, I reckon.
Yeah.
About 36 a year maybe.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to put 300 grand in, what your deposit and your buying costs. It's not a great return on investment for an HMO. I wouldn't buy that.
So what do we think it's worth?
See, I'm
income-wise?
not 100% sure on the actual rentals as well for an area. I mean, £200 a week for a room, albeit a very nice room, is very high.
It is Bournemouth,
It is Bournemouth, but
which is very nice.
Peak months you might get that.
precisely.
But then
But
you're talking
middle
nice
of
area.
Christmas, and I think with no void periods built in, no
Yeah.
allowances for extra monies being spent, I do think I agree with yourself.
I mean, I like him. I like him. I think he's a good guy.
Confident picture.
He's a confident pitcher, and he's in the building industry, which is good.
I was actually sitting here thinking, I don't understand his model because he's doing it up. He could refinance, say, get all the money out and hold on to it.
Yeah.
Well, we're not all like you, Sam. Some of us want to turn and make a profit and actually have some
but-
income,
but-
pay some school fees and things like that. You know.
It'd make a lot more money long term holding it.
Yeah,
That's where we
absolutely.
differ, obviously. You know.
That, I would
It's
have to
different-
agree with
if-
Simon.
if it's- that's why you're sitting next to him then, clearly.
So is
not
it just you?
everyone
How about you,
wants
Nick?
to
Would you hold on to it?
I think it's a holder
Yeah, what would you
more
hold
than
on to?
anything,
Yeah,
because
so
I
the
don't think
question's
you'd
you,
sell it.
John,
I think
then,
you'd really
just to be
struggle
clear.
selling that hybrid model.
Well,
If the
surely.
figures are, as
If you think
Renault
you can't,
says,
if you
then-
think you have to hold it and you can't sell it, there's no point doing it in the first place.
I don't think the end valuation stacks up,
Yeah.
but
So
I
what
do
do we
think,
think? If the income's right, if the income he's saying is right, and we think there's 35% coming off it for costs, if that's what we all think, what is it worth to sell on to someone else? What yield? 15% yield?
A minimum 15 to do an HMO.
Yeah, okay.
Ideally 20.
So, okay.
It's quite high.
Right, 20%, I might even get back into it.
You should be doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an investable project for me.
No, I'd recommend he just does it, refinances, holds onto it. He's got all the abilities and rent it out.
I mean,
Gets
yeah.
all his money back.
The issue is the resale of that grey area. Is
Well,
it
let's
a
find
C1?
out.
Is
I
it
mean,
an
resale's
HMO?
the
What is
issue, I
it?
think.
Yeah.
The council get a bit difficult
I
with
don't
these
think
things.
that's
They'll
the
see
problem.
people doing
You're
this.
a typical bank manager. That's why you're called the bank manager.
The councils have quite a lot of
At the end
power.
of the day- at the end of the day, surely, if it's guest house now and it's got all the fire regs for the guest house and everything else, and you give them a continental breakfast, what we used to do years and years ago, it's bed and breakfast.
It's not that simple because they will knock on the door.
Yeah.
They'll ask the tenants, "How long have
Yeah.
you stayed here?" They'll say
Yeah.
more than 3 months.
And they've got an AST
and it's
rather than a
residential.
license to be there.
And then they'll say, "Right, you've got
Okay.
residential here. You've just
So,
breached your planning."
okay, so that's a bit. I'm being
So
a
they
bit
will knock on
gung-ho.
the door. That's the
So
problem.
that's
It's
not
quite-
good
it's
advice
quite-
I'd give them.
it's quite high
I
risk.
think we've had doors knocked on before in the Watford one. We worked with the council. They were comfortable with what we were doing because we were making sure the lets were shorter term.
Okay.
But there's a risk for breaching here in lots of areas, and I think that makes it tricky to finance as well. I think this 10 times income is a problem. We all agree with that.
Yeah.
We need to base it more on an HMO model, which is
Definitely
much,
HMO. It's
much
got to be
less
HMO
than that.
model. And you're good at figures, so we'll leave that with you.
Yeah. So I think there's a few too many problems with this. As you say, if he comes back with rock solid planning, one other final thing which we haven't considered is VAT. If you're running a short-term business, VAT kicks in on the shorter lets.
Well, I would
You've got
say
some issues there that's going to eat into his margin on the
I
short
think he needs to
let
come
stuff.
back with planning permission, subject to planning permission for the whole thing. Okay, good. Excellent. Reno, just remind me of what you're looking for from us.
I'm looking for 100% funding on this particular project.
And what are you offering us?
I was hoping you guys would say to me what you're prepared to.
Reno, we can't be the buyer and the seller, so you need to say what you want, and then we'll tell you whether we think it's
40% of the net profit.
I think it's a very ambitious project that you're looking at, and you're almost asking someone to be half in the hotel business and half in the HMO business, and both sectors come with an awful amount of legislation that you're going to have to know. It's not something that I'm massively familiar with the guest house, so it's not something that I would like to invest in. So, but thank you for coming, and I think you're actually very investable.
I agree. Ambitious project. I do have quite a lot of experience in HMOs and some in guest houses as well. So just to clarify, you're looking to use it half and half?
It will be used as a guest house primarily, but we will be applying for dual usage as a HMO.
See, on that basis, I'm not going to invest. If it was just an HMO, I can see some value there, and I personally think it'd be better to actually hold on to it, refinance and hold it, but I guess that's not what we're looking for. So
I'm open to options.
If the model was a bit more proven, and if you could show me 3 of these that you've done that works, that you've got planning on, you've got the council on board, you've got the numbers, I'd be very interested, because there is...
To be fair, he has got it. He's done 2 or 3.
We've done 3.
Yeah.
Okay, and those have the planning
We've done 3
described.
that were sold.
Yeah.
With the
And
planning
the
you
4th
described,
one,
the dual use.
Well, there are 2 boroughs. There's the borough of Poole, and in Poole, if it's 6 units or less, 2 stories or less, you don't need planning permission and you don't need a HMO licence. It's a non-licensable HMO. In Bournemouth, they've implemented Article 4, and basically you've got to comply with that. So it's much harder to get the HMO.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying is, and so my concern was leading on to that planning aspect. So I won't be investing for that reason mainly.
I think the rental amounts are slightly lower coming in when you take into account void periods, which then results in the overall value being slightly less, and for that reason I'm out.
My advice to you, it's not for me today, but my advice to you is if you could have bought it subject to planning permission and brought it to us on that basis, I think you'd have had a backer today. But as it is now, I'm afraid I can't invest.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for coming.
I'm a little bit disappointed with how it went. I was hoping they would have been prepared to take a risk, but I understand that with the dual usage of a guest house and a HMO, that it was one that they weren't prepared to take on. So in summary, it's not all over. I will be looking to come up, and if there's an opportunity, I'll present one of the other deals we've got.